Ik ja, yok satini, stikat Johan. El cheese, jak ti, ya zoom kuk. Wan qanins, je khwachi qoneer, kechet na niku. Ka tlach toashku ka goed gegooti. Tlach toashku kuk sa niku. Atwe ne si kechet ya ti. Ja, het ka achiet. Je awe, ja yeki. Was ook gewoon aan ik kuk. Eka, talk, yach, talk die kunnen heen. Ja, talk te koe ha. Ach, was je aan ik ha. Dit leidt daar kusatan. Ja, like, kes leidt daar ustanch. Ja, was je kwartier koe. Ja, achietki. Wasa hast du in eer. Wasa je saka. Je has saka. Kineka de kodzati. Is the cookie? Kineka de kodzati. Asqa, ili, kala atina khatati. Eka Alaskan khatsati. Gan kaya tua. Takhuna khatsewa at. Dein kahune kineka de atina khayati. Khatsewa. Was just yata. Uski. Kikin kineka de helwasa khatkwati. Gande kwagur koa. Kanachwe ausle uchja. Uchja awe watuanuk. Aka kanachwe khatsewa at. Yahiki. Skunde area hokuch ya achet kika. Stakat we kuwa tatu. Was neatly kaya kli e hakoti has to yika. Hatko ya kwati. Ya khataya. Kuch the tea. Shatin tin. John kwa nelte kog. Ye awa adati tuchtatan. Ja, yaki kanachweach toasago at khashuku. Ja, du datawe you tuchtatan. Kakshaki. Ye yawaka. Tleit khak enach. Is khachat the tea khosatin. Ya tashta katwa yenda shani a. Joya. Just Jakut ku'u akakuwashi hastu in aya qashukut ya yidat qashan khatsati qajas jakut ku'u qaqashi hastu in aya wuchin qatu asa khatseo qatu shukut ya akhtu saku ya saku in qati Ja, kanachwe dadu tuchtatan ade wooch kadushxeet ya ʼatángi dada tinachsa hayati was hatwasugu eka ya tlagu konkian hastu yachaya yuchagachitla ad yexlingit enach gedein nakada yechenach yewa achtuati yewa at achtashi yeltekat johan Gulchisha iti sa akhiya yagi. Gal ajoy telkatin khota qaqehat nanik. Yaltakat yede ach tundatani. Kelkut kakwaki kha. Gulchish. Yit khoha jadu sa du twasagu. Khawatani. Guk. Ya awa. Kusi atake kuksaya iti. Ya khiti kasyan mune. Ya wasa. Hit usat i at kwalkiwe you do a saga at akawe tutat tlach yijine John koa saat ha hiti. Wala jawe we kunach tlagu we chawaki. Chawaki, gutachsoe asa. Chak oe chai, chazati chai. A yiktoe, ga, would do keen, would do keenan. Gwash, ya, a'adé ye has awus nean. Te, chynach yet ye te. Shukwa a, we gun. Just take a gun. What's that? Wooch to one kasi to a sagu. We gun. A cock aya. Ye has awus nean. Te, Tlein. Chynach cut duku te. A cut away jakuta gun. A ka shoot out the uck. Hasitwasagu kunahoya with I, we te. A ka away, we chai. Ye de away. Ye has ausani. A a'adé hasitu a tea. Nak. Gwash gunch. Gwash tsacht. Acho a hasu jiwa. Satu asago. Tsalki nagu. A kakaya hasitu a tea. Jakuta kayani hasawas ku. Ya nak sati a. A kahin a a'adé kausaha. Ye awe we hin. Konachwe wusatak we chai. Chak ko a hasitu chai a tutach aya a wulkaini. Gwash hasitu chayuk gang we autagan a tude a yide. Ya hoots gwash anasi teen. Ya chawaki has outlayech. Chai wak. You do a sago at chak. A joy. Chai waki. Ya yidat chawaki. You do a sago. Yat ayach. Gekach enach window. What do I hear ʼatángi? Gulchish. Gwell kleirkach enach niyade shuk gwell chin. Last questions, reflections.
Are you talking about your kids or them asking something?
Yeah. What I say about someday they're gonna watch this and then they'll probably take me to court someday and just sue me for saying all these things about them. But I was there too. I was a witness to the whole thing. What did I say about my kids? It's okay. I'll protect you legally. I'll represent you in court. They're the ones I talk to every day. So
I
Didn't-
heard. Oh, go ahead. I heard one part of the story you were offering medicine in the water, so you were offering like tobacco, and I couldn't catch the last medicine, but then you were saying it was in the water. You were putting it in the water. Was that in Iceland?
okay, let's come back to that. Okay, hold that thought. So with the kids, I was saying it's really cold out now. It's like it feels like winter to me. And every year I do this. Winter's coming, winter's coming, winter's coming. The next thing you know, I'm walking around somewhere like, why am I so cold? And so it's just like I never fully like do the thing. And then I was teasing my kids because I was saying what I say to them is I say, Yisukuke kinekate kutsati. How would you interpret that?
Don't you know, but I'm not sure of the second word.
Kinekate kutsati.
Something will be. That's all I got.
Yeah. Do you know that jackets exist? they get very mad at me. They get very mad. And they're like, stop it. I was like, it's like, I already told you, you need a jacket. And then they'll say, Alaskan Chatzati. They'll say, I'm a real Alaskan. They say that, and like they'll say it in English, right? But then we go somewhere and they're like, I'm so cold. So I was teasing them, but then I was also saying it's not just them. Like we went to pick them up from school today, and the adults were standing around. We all got super cold, and then the teachers, I was like, you guys should like build a little warming zone here. And so the teachers invited us all inside, and I went in and I told them in English. I said, I was born strong, but I'll come inside anyways because it was cold. And I just like to laugh. And so I was thinking of Norman James, how he said, when I was young, I'd look at the old people and I'd say, gee, it's like they just walk around looking for someone to laugh with. Now that I'm old, I just walk around looking for someone to laugh with. And I thought that was so funny. And so that's one of the reasons why I like to laugh a lot. And Ava told me a good joke today. I'll have to ask her for it. I'll give it to you on Wednesday. It was a great one. But yeah, and then I started talking about yes, and someone else said there's no such thing as bad weather, just the wrong clothing, and so that's another good one to keep in mind. I did start talking about a sweat lodge and how there used to be, I can't exactly remember what made me think of this, but I explained the word chawaqi, and that's why I was naming all these medicines, right? Because there would be a pit, and you would build. It was kind of hard for me to explain, but you would line up your firewood. Is how I'd seen it done. So you got one layer of firewood, then you put these big rocks. They've got to be solid. You don't want those ones that are a whole bunch of rocks that come together because they'll explode sometime or crack. So you got to have really solid rocks, and sometimes volcanic rocks work really well. And then you'll build a big fire on top of them. And then you've got these hot rocks, and you bring the hot rocks into the sweat lodge. People are sitting around it. And then you would put medicines on there, and tzacht and tobacco. You guys know tzarkinagu? It's the word for sage.
Peppermint? Oh.
Kushtanagu is peppermint, yes. And the nagu thing is really interesting because, like, sometimes when you have a body part, it's the medicine for that body part. Kushtanagu would be like some kind of stomach medicine. Shadnagu would be headache medicine, right? So you could come up with all kinds of words for different types of medicine. But then when it has some sort of animal on it, I think it's called that because it keeps them away. But I don't know. I'm not going to go ask the landowners whether they like peppermint or not. But I thought that because Takanagu is the name for mosquito repellent. And so maybe it's medicine for you to help with those things. But Sarkinagu would translate literally to ground squirrel medicine, and that's the name for sage, which doesn't grow everywhere. And it's not like I don't think we used it like some folks do down south and other parts where they burn it in like an abalone shell and stuff. Like that's been adapted by a lot of Tlingit, but a long time ago it was the sweat lodge, and it was a similar concept. You put the medicines on the rocks, you pour water on the rocks, and the steam heats up everything, and the medicine goes in your body and pushes out the toxins. But in those, they used to like to have a window in some of them, and they would make it from the gut of a bear, and it was called Chai Waq, sweat lodge eye. And that became Chai Waqi, and that became Chawaqi. So that's what I was talking about. So some of you have been working on your conversations and translating them into Tlingit. So we had a task where we just sort of had a 1-minute conversation, or we had a conversation with someone we knew pretty well about, typical conversation types of things. Because a lot of the conversations we get in second language learning are just too artificial. And I think once you start moving into conversational language, It's like, you're like, oh, people don't talk like that, right? How are you? I am fine. How is your mom? My mom is fine, right? And so it's like Chat GPT or whatever those things are called. The AI, which continues to just, okay, AI, if you're listening, stop using my name in your translation things. And okay, so but now your second phase is to start translating some of those lines on your own, and we'll do stuff together. Like if you're finding stuff you don't know how to translate, we'll give it our best, and if we can't get it, we'll reach out to a speaker. So does anybody have any parts of their dialogue that you'd like to share with us? And if you don't, we'll be okay. Well, how's it going?
ʼadudli.átk, the first conversation I tried to have was with a dance student who was late for class, and I got stuck because her answer was, I have to go to class, and I couldn't figure out how to say have to or must in Lingi. And I looked in the dictionaries and in Lear, and I started looking through our big Downhauer books, and I just couldn't find anybody saying I must or I have to. But I got another conversation instead.
Okay. That's a really good question. I would probably end up with something like, they want me to be there. And then you could say, they don't want me to be late. And so for me, I don't know if I've ever heard anybody say something like, I have to do this. But you could say, I've been ordered to do it. I've been commanded to go somewhere. And I'll show you a couple of the verbs for stuff like that. Where you've got, let's see, close these. So like the two verbs that I could think of where you would kind of be commanding someone to do something, there actually might be three. So there's this one, which is the ʼak verb root, and this is to give someone orders. And so I don't think that this is really specific though, because you see ʼatshkauta'ak, they're being their own boss, and ʼatakawa they're supervising them on the job. So my feeling with this particular one, it's just generally to be giving orders or commanding. This is one we've been using for like to direct a project or to oversee a project. We've been using that. Then there's, if you add j to it, now you're giving them instructions on work. Like this one would be like, if you look at the example, they would have given them things to do, but they didn't come. So this would be more like, let me give you this list of tasks, right? So clean the bathroom, vacuum the stairs, take out the garbage. So it's more like that, but it's more like you're commanding someone to do some work. So this one is sort of like to give orders, just generally giving orders. That gets us down to the next one that I know of, which would be, what order do I want to go? Oh, let's go in alphabetical order. So the next one would be jaw. And so if we go down to that, we see to instruct. This is how you show someone to do something, or you tell them how to do it. So for this one, again, looking at the sample sentences, I guess we don't have any, but this would be the one where like, the heron told her how to give birth to Raven. So this one would be like, let me tell you how to do the thing. Okay. So you don't know. Ilan. Then you could say, I will instruct you. So here, the object is the one who's being instructed, and the subject is the one who's instructing them. So this is showing someone how to do something. So like teaching is, and so whenever we get into like advanced languages, we find like, okay, there's differences between teaching and instructing and demonstrating. And so this would be like, I'm going to teach you how to dribble a basketball. And it would be this, but it's like very task specific, right? That's what it seems like to me. Then we get down to ka, which is the last one that I know of. And where we get it is usually this one, to send someone on an errand, to tell them to go somewhere. And this is the one where the tide commander, his name comes from this verb. He commands the tide. And so here you have, and even though it says send on an errand, and I don't think we have very many sample sentences, like we could look up these in the verb dictionary as well if we want to sort of get a few more sample sentences. But for me, this one is like to really send someone somewhere, to deliver a message, or to do some sort of thing. Like my mom sent me here to get bread, right? So this would be the thing for that. And so this one might work because like, I just don't know if I've seen a whole lot of examples of like, I have to do this, or this is something I must do. Which might suggest things of choice and just things like that generally in Tlingit. But the things that I've heard, and a similar thing, like when I was working with George, I remember I was trying to get like, I can ride a bike. And he would just say, I will ride a bike. Everything I asked him for can, he would just give me a future. Like, I'm going to do this. Or, the other thing is you could say, somebody wants me to do this. And then especially once you start employing kinship terms, like, my dad told me to do this. That means get out of my way because I have to do what my dad says, right? Because so once you get into kinship, you get into social hierarchies as well, which is all built into the language, right? So you don't send grandma on no errands. No. Grandma sends you on the errands, right? So these are also kind of the culture is built into the language, right? And so these are some things as well. So if you said, for example, here again, the object is the one who's being sent. So you could say, Achkla, chat kawaka, yank, my mother sent me here, right? And so this would be the thing. So you could say, if you ran into someone and, for example, you were late and someone sent you somewhere, you could say, Achkotatu, shkunde, chatkawaka, that I'm not going to talk to you right now. My teachers sent me to school. I got to get there. And then you could say, I don't want to be late. And then you could say, they want me to be there. So that's when you start getting into some more just sort of complex constructions, right? So you say, Klesh ach tuwa ushke gau it yechat ti. I don't want to be late. And you can also get things like du tuwasagu. Oh, that could be a hastu tuwasagu. And then you could say, it depends on where you're at. So you could say yuk, shkun, whatever. Yechati. And then the end parts can stay the same. They want me to be over there. Oh, okay. Yeah, we could get into okay, let's go find those. Sheesh.
Yeah, there's some also, she has a couple of tlach aadé verbier for must.
Oh,
Yeah, so I was just searching for that on another time. But you have to search, or I always have to search in English,
uh-huh.
your book.
Yeah, so this book does give us like an awful lot of just real life language because she tells her biography, she talks about what it was like growing up, and it's one of the most complete biographies that we have that's transcribed and translated. And then she also has several stories in here. And one of the nice things is that she did a lot of the work on the translation part too. So if you're not the speaker, you might interpret this a little bit differently in terms of what your intentions were with what you were saying. So if we go in here and look for must, he must have been, so that's a different use of that word. You must name her. So this gives us like maybe our first example. Let me actually zoom in here. So when we do this type of work, there's a couple of things we can do. So this is history of the taku yanyidi. And what I can, let's see what I'm trying to say. So what I could do is, this is in the Tlingit curriculum folder under texts and Nyman. But if you look under ʼakadunéek and Nyman, you will find some retypes by Sumuk, David Russell Jensen. And so if we look for the history of the taku yanyidi, I think it's this one. Yes, okay, so then we can switch to a retype of this one, and then we could look for the same thing. So if we go look for must, and we see there must be, so again, that's a different use of must. So let's go find the next one. Here it is. So then you have yu huan yisa. So then you have yaksha yu huan yisa. So this is a command form of the verb. So if you took out huan, you'd have yu yisa. And this is saying, you all name them this. It's a command form, right? So you got a straight command form. And what the huan does here is it kind of softens a command a little bit. It's not quite please, but it might be the closest thing we've got. So you might hear people say, will hand me some water. It's sort of like please, I guess. And so in that case, that's what, so we're getting must here, but this isn't, again, like in terms of what we're trying to do, like I have to be there. This is a little bit different. But you could say, my mom told me go there, right? Or whoever tells you, go there. Okay. Let's see if there's another example to find with, he must have been the one, she must have been. So like these are a little bit different, right? So this isn't like have to. This is like they must be getting drunk. So again, we're getting into speculation with this kind of thing. I must still have been crying. I must have slept really well. You must sleep by her side. So for this one, if we scroll up to 485, ʼadudli.átk ayukakita. And so here, we're getting a straight future. Ye'aweh dayaduka. So people said to me, you are going to sleep beside her. So again, just in terms of like how we interpret that, I think sometimes we do use a second person future in Tlingit to soften a command, right? I use this with my kids. You're going to be kind. You guys are going to be nice to each other. You guys are going to listen. You're going to be good. So it's like, you. And that's not a prediction. That is, if I were to if I just turn to my kids and we're going somewhere, And I speak Tlingit to them, and I said, "Ke yikwak e yug." That means you're going to be good there. But you could translate it that way in English. But you could also say, "You better be good. You better be good over there," right? But it just kind of depends on that. There's a lot that we get out of, through context.
Does anyone know, you or anybody else, when Donawak used to tell the school kids, you must learn how to live in Alaska? Did anyone ever hear him say that in Tlingit?
Hmm. I didn't. Cuisine might have. Okay, so yes. So I don't know, but I'm guessing like you would probably use it some sort of second person hortative, or you would use a command. But there's this other thing. Oh, how am I going to find this? There's another construction. Let me just show you in the dictionary. Hold on. Close that. Close that. So the other thing I was thinking of in the dictionary is this word "ka," which I don't know if we've talked about here. So we're going to go look it up. K apostrophe low tone E. So it's right here, and it's translated generally as should. And so there's different ways that I've seen this used. So you say "ke," command form of a verb, "oosh," and like if only. So for example, "Kate na ta'ush," if only you could sleep, if only you went to sleep, right? And then you have "ke," verb "oosh." I've seen this used. Like I want to find this in Nyman as well. I think I know what I need to do. Because there was a question in the chat as well about translating these, not really translating, but just doing these orthographies. I do have a cheat sheet somewhere. So I can put this up as well, which is, let's see, I'm going to rename it. So if we look at the Downhauer and Lear orthographies, which I have. So here's what you're looking at. So if you have this downward, so whatever you have in blue on the right, just look to the left to see how it would be written in the Downhauer orthography. So on the right, you have the Lear orthography. And like really you have, if you have downward, you're looking at long, low. If you have this circumflex, this little carrot guy, little hat, you're looking at long and high. Like that's the biggest, that is the single biggest thing I think, because then an H after the consonant means it's underlined. And so like this is your cheat sheet right here, which I can screenshot and put into the chat. But because folks were having a difficult time reading it, it was suggested that a student undertake the task of retyping the Nyman book. And we got most of it. And I know some people would be really upset by that, but it's fine. Nobody's going to get harmed. So let me see if I could find. Okay, because if you want to find like here's one of the tricks with doing searches is you have to, if you're using the Crippen keyboard, you are using a character apostrophe, or you want to use the punctuation apostrophe. So in the more than you wanted to know conversation, you would type K, hold down the option key, press the apostrophe, and then it's a low short E. So here you have on line, this is the story, again, ʼakadunéek, which if we wanted to, we could switch back to the typed version, or the retyped version, sorry, this one is already typed. But this one also has them lined up next to each other. And for this one, we can look for the character apostrophe. So yan kasanugu. So you have that's a hortative with a suffix on it. So yan kasanugu. So yan kasanuk it would be what the verb would be. Let me find out about this. You have look at the glacier. So this is saying it would be good if you looked at the glacier, or if that's how I would sort of look at it. So if you have in a command, I think you end up with it would be good. Aadé. Okay. Oh, that's a long one. No one will be able to say any old thing about you. That's what that's saying. Okay. Here's the ʼatángi. Okay. Anyways. Sorry. Sent me down a wormhole. There's so much stuff in the Nyman things. I mean, we could do a whole semester on that stuff.
Sheesh.
Yeah. So the have to, or for me, I would end up saying like the reason instead of I don't think you really have a short thing. It's like, I've been told I need to, you could say, so here's another way that you could probably say that, is you could say, you end up with a fourth person thing. So you say, ye chat ʼadudli.átk ʼatángi. I need to be there, but I don't think that's gonna work. See, I would end up with saying aadé nagu. That's what I would end up saying. I've been told to go there. Or yechat. Oops, ʼadudli.átk. It was said to me. ʼitk ye ʼatángi. Oops. Don't be late. Okay. Sheesh. Okay. I'll share the notes for sure. Anyone else got things you want to share, questions you want to ask about your translation work as you translate your short little dialects?
Yeah, if nobody else is going to be going immediately, my second conversation was about medicines. And one of the medicines that we were talking about was Devil's Club salve or Devil's Club ointment. And I couldn't find a word for salve or ointment. And I guessed that it would be grease, but I really don't know.
Maybe ʼadudli.átk. I think is okay. Let's go in the dictionary. Let's see, what do I have for needs? I think we'll find a couple of entries for things in there. They'll be similar. Okay. So you get ʼadudli.átk, which is wax. It's for sewing. But then, see, nails is like a lotion, or it comes from na. The verb root is na, which is to, I guess, to put an ointment on. And so I guess I need to make an entry for this one, though, because I think it's there for sunblock. Is that what it is? No. You got the names. Maybe I don't have that at all. But I think the verb root. Oh yeah, I don't have anything in there. Okay. Well, let's go look at the verb then. We go to let me see what's open. Okay, there it is. Oh, nagu. Nagu. Yeah, you could have ʼtsacht nagu. That might work, but okay, here's the verb dictionary. So we're gonna go look up na. And we get this one, to rub in the oil or liniment, put oil on. And so we're going to go look up oil. So here we've got, I'm going to oil the skin, I'm going to oil the wooden platter. He oiled his face, oil your face with the face oil. So yanetsi is the word. It used to be deer tallow, and people used to have it on their face all the time. But that is now the word for sunblock, is yanetsi. Yanetsi. And so that does stay low, which is kind of unusual, because once you put a suffix on it, like, you expect it to kind of go high, because it has an adjective ending. But and then we can also see okay. Let's see if I have anything else in my notes here. Okay. Yeah, I'll have to look at that one. But I think ʼtsacht is what I would recommend. Because we do have nak and nagu, but I wonder, like, just saying things like ʼtsacht nagu, if we go back to that construction we had earlier, when you see nagu, it seems like, or nagu, so it should be high, you see that used mostly with body parts in there. Like, you could say ʼtsak nagu would be like medicine for your joints, if like arthritis medicine, things like that. Oh, okay. I just see in the chat that there is language meeting Thursday at Cajun Gal. 5 o'clock? Oh. Okay. 10 minutes left. So think, okay, work on your translations, bring your questions, we'll keep working. I would say it's ʼadudli.átk, which, have you all heard a name for Devil's Club Salve? Have you heard anything else? Yeah, I don't think I have. Let's see if I have that in the list. Huh, that's interesting. Okay. I could check on that one too, but that's what I would recommend Nate's for anything that's made into, because it's made into basically like an ointment or a lotion, and out and na with it. Okay, okay.
Kune.
Oh,
I saw something the other day. It was for rose petal lotion, and it was a word from Keishi. It was kunate kinchei hianatsi.
oh, okay.
Yeah, I'd never heard the kunate before.
Yeah, okay, so I gotta actually go and figure out what kinds of things need to be fixed, because here's the issue. I'm pretty sure, I'm 90% certain, but I'm certainly fine if I'm wrong. Kinchei is a rose hip. Conjugation is the flower of the wild rose. So the big thing is like the flower and the rose hip each have a different name, and they were both medicinal. So the medicine of the kinchei is that it has a lot of vitamins in it, and I think you have to peel it first, but you can eat it. And then conjugation is can be made into a salve, and it can also be made into, if the water is lukewarm, it could be used as an eye wash. That's something that ʼatángi taught me, was that if you had something like some kind of infection in your eye, as you could use that as an eye wash.
Sheesh.
Okay. But yeah, I was puzzled for a long time, and I think I found it in Jeff's notes, and because I was like, conjugation is also a name, and I know someone with that name. I was like, are you like that little flower? And they didn't know, but then I'm like, I think you're that little flower. So I'm not trying to tell anybody what they are. Or maybe I am. Okay. Jeez. So let's look at a couple more things with verb contractions, right? So just continuing to move through this and think about how these things work, and just keep constructing this stuff in our brain. So for me, it's all about a couple of different things at this point. To put the verb into a certain mode, you have to activate certain components of the verb. When you activate those components, then they start interacting with each other in certain ways that are complicated but predictable. When you start changing the subject, now it starts to sort of interact like in a variety of ways that are predictable, but I think it's good to learn what the common patterns are. So with this presentation, we went through and we've done all of these in the green, just to define what they are. So when we see ya, and we see ʼkudach, and we see aadé, like we know generally what they are and what they do. We did these objects, we did all of these thematics right here, and we just got to this conjugation part. And so we're going to move through subject, classifier, stem, suffix, postverb. Like mostly we deal with the prefix at this point. Because if you can build a prefix, you can use verbs. So that's why we tend to focus on those. So the way that this is organized, I did a little bit of reorganizing on this slide, is you have 4 spots here. And what you need to know is like these things will appear in a certain order. And this is important because that one I just said, ʼadé, ʼadunéek. So if you say ʼadunéek, that literally it says, so it will not be that way, right? But you have ʼnateek. But if you say, so you don't get sick, you'd say ʼikuneek. And so you have ga and then which is why you have gu as opposed to una. And then if you say ʼkadushxeet, you only have the aerialis because you have a 0 conjugation. ʼkadushxeet, right? So the order is important. Like, ga is the first one, is the second one, qa and na are the third ones, and then y and qa are the fourth ones. Like by fourth, I mean they sit on a little wheel or a little dial. You can only have one. I don't think you'll get all 4. You'll get 3. I don't think you'll get 4. This qa is the conjugation one, which is different than this qa, which is the modal one. So you can have both of those. sti. And what we'll learn is a hortative must have the conjugation prefix activated and the qa mode. So there's a few different things that have qa mode just built in there. The future does. And so what this also shows you is some of these are specific to the conjugation type of the verb. Command, hortative, potential, habitual. Those are the 4. Those ones. Although with hortative, you also have purposive, and with habitual, you also have before, right? Or hasn't happened yet. So like in terms of how these things are used, but if you're using one of those verb modes, that's when it matters. Like the ga pops up, or the qa pops up, or the na pops up. But ga and na have other uses as well, where this says it doesn't matter what the conjugation type is of the verb. Every future must have ga, qa. 1, 2, 4. They always have to be there. Negatives will have to have Comparatives will have to have Progressives will all have na and only na. Yana gut, kenak ain, yenat queen, yenat queen, right? The perfective marker comes up in the perfective and also in the 0 conjugation type habitual, right? It's a lot, but you could say, I haven't eaten that yet. Okay. And then this qa pops up in future, hortative, proposed. What did I put down here? I didn't put it over here. Okay. Potential and conditional. So there's a second slideshow that shows all the different prefix combinations. I think that's all of them. And then it shows you what things are there to how to make those verb modes so that you can look them up for now, and then you can learn how to put them together. This is one of the big sort of leaps into full-on speaking Tlingit, because if you could do this stuff, then you can just sort of build your database of verbs, and then you could pull this information and attach it to the verb, and now you're using that verb. So the last thing about these is how do they change? This is important. If you take this vowel off of ga, it turns into a k. That's why you got all those kukwagut and kukigut and those types of things, because something has knocked that vowel out of there. That's a pretty soft vowel. It's likely to go. So that's why sometimes it'll turn into a k. The way that it changes is if it encounters cha it jumps over it, right? So if you're using some sort of I'm not doing it or something like that, you're going to have khwa, techwacha, I'm not eating it, right? Or you could say I don't eat it, techwacha, and that's what you're going to get right there. When you knock, this is where like this, taking the vowel out of this, turning it to a K, makes sense in terms of the rules we've learned about Tlingit and these consonant combinations. But when you take the out of qa, it changes to kh. So this is one that does something that's a little bit unusual. So, but this is why you end up with nachtu'at and things like that. If you add qa and kha, you get qa. That's just something that happens, right? But that's why you have k, ka, goot. I'm gonna go, because this is combining with it. So this is getting knocked out and replaced. K, ka, goot, right? Like you'll eventually see these things in all of the different prefix combination patterns, right? Na, sometimes the vowel can get just knocked off of there. So you can have yanagut and you can have yanchagut. So there, that na changed to just the letter N. We'll get to the perfective next time. We're out of time. But there's a lot here, but the idea is like, look at all this stuff. This is what you can expect. And then when we start looking at the prefixes, you'll be looking at them, looking for this type of stuff. I'm trying to front load it in your mind so that you're looking for it, and you're finding these common patterns, and then you're learning how to do it yourself. Okay. After the 100th time we go over it, it'll make so much sense. So, keep working on your conversation. So you've got a 1-minute conversation in English. Work on translating that over to Tlingit. Bring your questions and just show us some bits, some pieces that you've done so far. You've got these 3 chunks of Tlingit audio that you're trying to, from Jimmy Johnson, that you are translating. Well, you're transcribing and translating, writing the Tlingit, translating into English. Try out Elon. Email me with specific questions if you want to, and we can set up a time to troubleshoot your Elon if you're having any problems with it. You don't have to use Elon. You could just use a word processor document and the audio, however you want to do it. Just make time markers every now and then. But for now, I would say just keep listening to the Tlingit. Make sure you've picked which one of the 3 that you want to work on. So the first one is kind of just a list of things. Still complicated, but not as complicated as the second one, which is a short narrative. Oh, there go the balloons. Which is a little bit more. So if you're feeling like, I'm ready for a challenge. And then if you feel like you're ready to climb the mountain, number 3 is a bigger story with more complexity. Number 2, they're all complex, but now you could choose your own adventure. Door number 1, door number 2, door number 3. And just keep in mind, you're not doing this stuff alone. You're not by yourself. Moving into this type of work is a huge step, but we'll go through it all together. And there's no grade, so no pressure. Everybody's wonderful, doing awesome.
There you go.
Cheese.
Kadushxeet.
Kadushxeet.
ʻAkádunéek.
Kwasatin.
Cheese.